Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Iisha Taylor, and I will be presenting on how yoga saved my life as a stroke survivor. But before I get into the presentation, I would like to introduce myself, tell you guys a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. I am the owner operator of Taylor Training LLC, a personal training, health, and fitness service provider in the Louisville area. I graduated from Berea College with my undergraduate in physical education and health. And I also got my master's from Eastern Kentucky University in sports administration. Um, I don't like the title as personal trainer because we do so much more than focus on people's on our clients' trainings. Well, at least I do. I can speak for myself and what I do and what I bring to the table. And with my background, being physical education and health, I consider myself more an exercise physiologist, a scientist, a health and wellness coach, overall well being is what I like to focus on the most because I know if our mental is good, then our health can be good as well. And then there's so many other factors that play into our health overall. When I say this, a lot of people like, what? Oh my God, I can't believe it. You had a stroke. You had a stroke at 2? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I did have a stroke. I'm a stroke survivor. I had my stroke back in 1993. I was about two and a half, so I always say that I was 3 years old. Um, but I'm so much more than just a stroke survivor. Um, and hopefully in the future, you guys will be able to learn more about me and how much more I am. Because as individuals, we are so layered. Um, so I'll be presenting on how yoga saved my life as a stroke survivor. I first encountered yoga back in college when I was at Berea. Now, a little bit about me. I'm also I consider myself to be an athlete as well. I played high school ball. I played for Special Olympics. I did track and field for the Special Olympics as well. I've always been into sports. Um, as a child, I can throw a football. I know how to throw a baseball. I know how to swing a bat. So, like, doing certain sports have always come easy to me. And one of my professors, Coach Johnson, uh, for the swimming, yes, it is true that if you go to Berea College, you have to be able to pass the swimming test. And I was not exempt from that, okay? But I ended up making it out of there thanks to Coach Johnson. But he sat and told me, it's like, you are an athlete. I would sink to the bottom of the pool like a box of rocks, y'all. And like I was just so dense with muscle. And I've always been this way since I was a kid, even when I was chunky and fat. Um, so when I encountered yoga for the first time, it was either between my junior, my freshman or sophomore year of being at Berea, and I was like, "What is this? This is like a little. This ain't weightlifting. Nah, this ain't pushing no weight. We ain't doing nothing, um, challenging with yoga. Um, and I could not be more wrong. I could not be more wrong in my life. Okay. Um, so that was my first encounter with yoga, and I didn't try it. I didn't give it a try. Later on, when I was at Iowa as an assistant coach, the opportunity to give yoga a try came back around again. I was not a fan of yoga. It was not something that I thought was challenging or going to be challenging for me. So, um, back in 2021, August of 2021, I was fairly new into a challenge, and this is right after the pandemic. So I was like, I got to get my mindset back on track after all of this stuff that happened with the shutdown. So I heard of the popular challenge of the 75 hard challenge. Um, so I was like maybe a month, a couple weeks into my challenge, and August 28th, 2021, I received a phone call that my dad had a stroke, that he was in the hospital. And come to find out, he had his stroke that Thursday, August 27th, 2021. So, um, he and I were, pretty close. So it was, it felt natural. It felt right that I try to make sure that he's taken care of, that things are okay on his home front while he was out. But taking on that stress, that amount of stress, and trying to still run a business, I was still trying to complete the challenge. There was 5 tasks that you had to do, and I felt like I could still do them well, even though I was taking on so much weight. And again, I was wrong. To work out twice a day, to drink a gallon of water, to stick to a diet, and I'm barely home. If I'm not at the gym, I'm at the hospital. Like, so much of my home front was neglected to make sure that he was okay, and that was my own doing. He didn't ask me to do it. Again, it just felt right. It felt like something that I should do, even though there could have been other people involved. um so that challenge, I completely failed at. Instead of losing weight or even maintaining weight, when I started that challenge, I was 135 pounds. I ballooned to 160 by the end of that challenge. And I was like, oh my God. Literally. I remember, I don't remember the exact day, but I remember the moment I had got home. I was in my living room. I was in the floor on my yoga mat, and I cried out to God that I don't want to do this by myself anymore. And what I meant by do what I didn't want to do by myself anymore was the fact that I knew I was losing myself. I was too consumed in what was going on outside of me that I didn't know who the hell I was anymore. And even before that, that was just a cherry on top. I had been on this decline um way before, but that was just the added stress of that was just my breaking point. So once my dad was kind of coming back up, I decided that I was going to redo my challenge, which I knew I was going to redo anyway because I was not satisfied with the first one. So January 3rd or 4th of 2022, I started the 75 hard challenge again. This time I had laid out, mapped out exactly how I wanted to execute this 75 hard challenge. I had a calendar, I had the workouts that I was going to do, what days. So the first month and a half, my two workouts were to do 45 minutes of yoga in the morning, even though starting out, it wasn't exactly 45 minutes, but I had that window available allotted for yoga, right? Because I was like, I'm carrying too much tension. I need to stretch. That's pretty much how it started, with stretching. And then I started coming across YouTube videos um, of yoga. And I was like, all right, let me get this a shot. Um, so yoga and then walking 45 minutes when I was at the gym. So the first 2 weeks, I lost 8 to 10 pounds just from doing those simple things. I wasn't weightlifting, I wasn't straining my body, and it helped so much with resetting myself. And then my diet was to do intermittent fasting, which fell into my regular lifestyle anyway, because when I wake up, I'm not necessarily always hungry. I don't get hungry until about noonish, 11, 12, and sometimes I can go until 1 or 2 without eating, as long as I'm staying hydrated or drinking some kind of fluids. So, what exactly is yoga? So, up here I have a couple different definitions of what yoga is. The first one is my own kind of summary of what I believe yoga to be. Yoga is a form of meditation through movement that allows one to connect mind and body via breath control. And then we have the Webster's dictionary. Yeah, Webster's definition of what yoga is, and then we have the Oxford Dictionary's definition of what yoga is. And I mean, they're pretty much the same. Webster's says that it's a Hindu uh, aesthetic. Excuse me if I'm saying it wrong. Philosophy teaching the suppression of all activity of body, mind, and will in order that the self may realize its distinction from them and attain liberation. Then the Oxford definition is a Hindu spiritual and aesthetic discipline, a part of which including breath control, simple meditation, and the adoption of specific bodily postures. It is widely practiced for health and relaxation. Um, so yeah, again, my definition I feel is so much simpler. It's just movement, different postures that you can put your body into that allows you to connect deeper with yourself, with your higher self. Um, so stroke yoga saved me as a stroke survivor with improving my flexibility, reducing my stress, and providing a way to have better emotional connection, not just with myself, but with the people I encounter. I've already been pretty much an empath my entire life. So I connect and I empathize with a lot of people easily. But communication is where I'll say that emotional connection and being able to be more vulnerable, because now I have the tool of doing yoga to go back to if it becomes overwhelming, right? So improving my flexibility, you know, as a stroke survivor, having um, your neural pathways pretty much shut down for whatever various reasons as to why your stroke occurred, uh, is one. So my toes always stayed balled up on my right side. So hemiparalysis is something that I've struggled with. Muscle tone, and I believe I have a slide. Let me go to that slide. So there's some of my personal struggles that I've had in regards to being a stroke survivor. So paralysis, spasticity, muscle tone, drop foot, drooping face. Like I couldn't smile. I could smile, but I could never really control the movement of my lip or my face on my right side. But now I can. Lockjaw, I still have bouts with lockjaw because with a drooping face, your mandibular jaw is not in a line in normal alignment or in an alignment that it should be. So when I go to yawn big, or if my muscles in my jaw were very um, fatigued or overused, or I was having tightness in my jaw for not speaking my mind because I'm clenching my teeth because I'm not speaking up, or I don't want to be vulnerable. Um, to express my thoughts and my feelings, then when I would go to yawn really big, my jaw would literally lock up. Atrophy, depression, negative body image, emotional distress. And I know a lot of people are like, how in the hell do you have negative body image? Like, I tell you, as a child, I absolutely hated to show my legs because it was such a difference in size and obviously use and ability. But I can laugh about it and joke about it now, but my legs literally look like the number, my at least my calves look like the number 10, you know, the right leg being the 1 and the left leg being a 0 cuz the calf was a lot bigger. So that's a few of my personal struggles, but yoga helped me to get into my toes, right? At the end of this presentation, I'll give a few of the poses that I recommend and that I feel have helped me the most in my yoga journey, or at least started to like really open up as I began to implement yoga into my life on a regular basis. Um, so being able to lunge with balance. I I joke about this, but I was able to at one point in time do a box squat of 500 pounds for 1 to 2 reps. Right, I could deadlift almost 400 pounds. I think it was about 385. But I could not lunge to save my life without any weight. I'm literally falling off balance without any weight in my hand trying to hold or do a walking lunge. So, warrior two pose really helped with finding my balance in my lunge position. No knee pain. My knee, oh my God. After college, after leaving Berea, I could not run without excruciating pain, to the point where when I got to Iowa, I could not play pickup with the girls, um, to be an extra body. Like I couldn't even do half court. It was so bad. Um, but again, I have no pain now, and I've been able to do 2 5Ks thus far. Excuse me, looking for my third 5K or running event that I plan to do. Uh, I can sit in lotus pose. Now, let me tell you, being or trying to sit crisscross applesauce was not the best position for me to sit in. But now I literally have photos or video or something to show that that was not a pretty pose for me. But now here I am able to almost fully be in lotus pose with feet on thighs. Just have a little bit more range or mobility that I need to get into with my hips, and I will be there. My shoulder range of motion, oh my God, yo, like I've literally witnessed the changes in my shoulder, feeling my shoulder, like literally looking at how my shoulder has changed over the years. And I've done a terrible job at documenting this journey every step of the way. But where I was, especially with my shoulder, where I was in grade school to where I am now, I would have shoulder pain all the time in middle school. And all my doctor would prescribe me was a sling and to stop doing whatever I was doing to aggravate it. And I wasn't doing much of anything at all at the time. Stress reduction. Like, oh my God. The releases. Again, the body truly holds tension. I read the book, The Body Keeps Score, and I recommend it to anybody, any and everybody, because we all have experienced trauma and we're all holding on to this trauma. And it may not be mentally, it may not affect our attitude, it may not show up in our everyday social lives, but somewhere, if you have a physical limitation, or if you have something going on in your body, more than likely it's from trauma. And stretching and doing yoga can help to release it. Even doing trigger point acupuncture or cupping or something of that nature can help. Like that stress reduction has again, my shoulders and my hips is where I feel I've held a lot of tension, a lot of stress, and I literally have felt it melt away just by holding certain positions. And when I come out of them, I feel so much better and I can breathe deep breaths. I have less anxiety. I call it a meditative high that I get to where I can just be calm and be chill. And because of that, I have less and it's reducing more and more of that spasticity and that muscle tone. I can actually live. I feel like I'm actually living in my body, right? And again, more emotional connection with myself. You know, the ability to sit in meditation with yourself and not to stop your thoughts, right? When I was presented, because I've been presented with meditation before earlier in my life, and it was the sitting kind of meditation where you sit and you try. At the time it was more or less to stop your thoughts, and that's not what meditation is. It's the ability to be able to control your thoughts, the ability to allow your thoughts to come and go as they please, um and you not being able, and you and us as individuals not clinging on to those ideas, right? I have more joy, more love. My emotional intelligence has increased, you know, being able to connect and see things that other people are going through. Like I really like I can sit and see how people react to certain things that happen and be like, oh, okay, that's something deeper than what is actually happening. Again, being more vulnerable. I'll be honest. Like, if you ask me to do a presentation like this to this magnitude a few years ago, if I wasn't in school or you know in college, then it's a no go, right? I don't. I'm not. I'm an open book, but I'm not an open book, right? I say certain stuff to a degree, but I'm not going to add, or I wasn't. I'm more likely to do it now, but I was in that headspace where I wasn't going to add the emotional piece on how it made me feel. I can tell you, yeah, you pissed me off, but like, man, that made me just wanna ball up and cry, and I don't like that you did that, like you know that kind of thing. All right, so let's get into stroke statistics. So every 40 seconds, somebody in the world has a stroke. There are 795,000 people who suffer a stroke each and every year. Stroke is the leading cause of long term disability. Two-thirds of 7 million people who are survivors of stroke are disabled. And only 25% of people who have their first stroke will recover in the first 5 years. Now, as a young child, as a youth, they told me that my best bet to recover from my stroke was within the first 1 to 2 years. So how we got to 5 years, I have no idea. But technology has advanced, and there is so many more resources that I didn't even have access to back in the early 90s, 2000s. One is the Fraser Norton Fraser U of L Rehab Center gym. I forget the name of it, but it's a community gym specially made for people with physical limitations, with disabilities, to make people feel more comfortable in a gym setting. That was not around when I had my stroke. And I love being in the gym. I wouldn't be a trainer. All right, we already went over my personal struggles as a stroke survivor. So some of those helpful poses that um I experienced is what we're going to get into now. So child's pose, like, and how I started with yoga was a lot of grounding poses, right? I didn't start standing immediately. Child's pose, pigeon pose, uh, a lot of forward folds is where I started in my journey of yoga. Shout outs to Cassandra on YouTube for all that she has posted on YouTube and for the yogi community, because that is who I started off following. And as I got comfortable with knowing what works for my body and just being more experimentational with the different poses, um she's like, watching her videos was a huge help with the start of my yoga process. So child's pose, balasana, this is like one of my favorite poses. In my opinion, again, it takes us back to being a child. Most of our childhood trauma happened when we were youth. When we we knew better, but we didn't really know better, right? Where that innocence was still there. What I don't even want to call it innocence. Um, when the world didn't have its imprint on us, right? So it oh my God, like, I could not sit on my heels to save my life to be all the way down in this position. And the reason I love this stretch so much is because it's done so much for my shoulder, for my mobility and range of motion of my arm, right? Um and for me, it's a position of submission and surrender to my higher self, to my inner God, to the universal God. And it is a pose that speaks to or connects us to or opens up the root chakra, um, of being secure, of being safe. Because when we're in a unpredictable or unsafe position, say we're getting into a fight or we're getting jumped, right? If we get knocked on the ground or something like that, this is the first position that we're going to uh end up in. We're going to ball up to protect our body. you know um when we have tornado drills in school, what they have us do, go in the hallway and ball up, right? So child's pose, huge in my process of how yoga has truly opened up my body. Reach through or thread the needle. The image doesn't really doesn't depict this position or pose. But thread the needle has done again so much for my shoulder and my torso with having to stick my arm through and basically stretch my my scapula that wasn't having a lot of movement in it. It was almost like frozen shoulder. if I if I had to compare it to anything. Like the shoulder would not move. Again, I don't know what trauma or what I went through as a child, as a youngin, that caused my body to freeze and to be in so much tension. But man, these are wonderful. Your upper back and between your shoulder blades. Amazing. Okay. And spine. See, spinal rotation. Reduce that tension. Oh, Lord. Downward dog. Now, let me tell you, I mentioned Cassandra, right? If y'all go and type her in your YouTube to go check out her videos, I'm going to warn you right now. Downward dogs are in and throughout her routines. And when I first started, I absolutely hated the downward dog. I was like, how much longer are we gonna hold this? The thing that I love about yoga, it does the three things that I try to stress when I do programming for myself as well as my clients. It stretches, strengthens, and stabilizes the body. Those are my three S's: the stretch, strength, stabilize, right? Downward dog lengthens the spine. I know some people have heard this before, but I love this saying: we're only as young as our spine is flexible. So if you can't bend down to tie your shoe, it's a problem with your spine, right? You can't bend forward. You can't fold forward. So in yoga, you practice a lot of forward folds. And downward dog, you may be on all fours, but it is a forward fold if you were to sit on your keister. And it is a full body stretch from the rooter to the tutor, from the feet to the hands to the peak of the mountain. Okay. And you get amazing core strength benefits from it. Like I literally did not like downward dog, but I praise it now. Warrior 2 pose, as I mentioned earlier, Warrior 2 helped me a lot with balance, with trying to find my balance in my lunges. Um, Again, stretching and strengthening while stabilizing the body, the three S's. The S3 program is I think it's available and it's free. It's on my YouTube page at Taylor Training Media on YouTube. S3 S3 program. But it helps with the your legs, the strength of the legs, the flexibility of the legs, stretching your inner thighs, your outer thighs, like your back, your hamstrings. There's so many benefits to the lower body. That's why I love the Warrior 2 pose. And my ankles love them as well. Right? So yoga has tremendously helped my body, right? And again, I encourage any and everybody to go check out The Body Keeps the Score, because there's so many other holistic resources or like techniques and practices that are mentioned in that book that can help any and everybody. We going through life experimenting anyway. Why not experiment in holistic ways that aren't going to harm you, like drugs, like these medications, these medicines, right? Why not experiment through movement, through connecting with animals? Because I believe horses and dogs are mentioned in the book as a therapy source. And then I also encourage any and everybody to go read the book. Go read her whole series. But Brene Brown, I encourage anybody to go read The Wilderness, Braving the Wilderness, by Brene Brown. Like that book, being able to stand alone, because a lot of times going through this journey, especially for me, I'm I've been by myself on a lot of this. I've been going against a lot of norms that my family's been used to for years, for centuries. I don't know how far it dates back. But going against the grain of society is not easy, and you have to be able to brave the wilderness. And I feel like if you're trying to heal your childhood trauma, and there's no one, you may be the first one in your family, such as myself, to be diving in so deeply to the point where you may be alienated by your own family, we all have this notion that that's who's going to be by our sides until the day we die. So I I encourage anybody that is going on a journey to heal themselves from their childhood traumas to think about implementing yoga into their practice. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to present, allowing me to take up some of your time, allowing you to allowing me to share just a scratch of the surface of my story as a 3-year-old stroke survivor, and so much more. As always, everything is motivation. Yes, that is our tagline at Taylor Training LLC. And you guys can check us out online for more information at taylortrainingcoaching.com. Peace, love, and blessings. Thank you.